Why does God allow all kinds of bad stuff to happen? That's the million-dollar question. But I think we can answer it in 4 simple steps. Step 1. We first need to recognize exactly why humanity exists. What is the objective purpose of life? It stands to reason that if God created humanity on purpose and for a specific purpose, then there would be objective facts about humanity, irrespective of the subjective opinions from humanity. Well, that's great, but how would we ever know such a thing? How would we discover the objective purpose of life? It seems that we would need some divine revelation. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus made it clear when he summarized the entire law into 2 simple and easy to remember commands. Number 1, love God first, and number 2, everybody love everybody, from your neighbors and even to those who consider you to be an enemy. You gotta love them. So that's the first step in answering the million-dollar question. The objective purpose of life is all about love. Step 2, the next step in answering the million-dollar question is to realize what exactly is required for a genuine true love relationship, what I refer to as a maximal love relationship, or the best kind of love. One key ingredient to the kind of love worth wanting is free will. More specifically, what philosophers and theologians refer to as libertarian freedom. That is to say, the best kind of love is only possible if humans possess libertarian freedom. That means that something or someone else is not causing or determining all of your thoughts and actions. Moreover, think about this. A woman with libertarian freedom could resist the flirtatious advances of a man or not. And if she chooses not to resist a man's advances, well, it could lead to a true love relationship. However, if a man slipped a drug into a woman's drink so that she loses the freedom to resist or not resist, then it's obvious that this is not a maximal kind of love. This is similar to what the Joker did to Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad movie. The Joker changed Harley Quinn's nature against her will. This is clearly not love, it's the epitome of evil. Click here to see a video I did about this specific relationship. Since God created humanity on purpose and for the specific purpose of love, God also creates humanity with libertarian freedom so that the kind of love worth wanting, the best kind of love, can be attained. Step 3. The next step in answering the million-dollar question is to point out the fact that true love or maximal love never fails, at least according to 1 Corinthians 13:8. It never comes to an end. God desires an eternal love relationship with each and every person into the infinite future. God gives humans libertarian freedom into eternity so that we can experience infinite love with no end. Step 4. With love and eternity in mind, this same ability that allows us to experience true and maximal love is also the same ability, when used in a backwards manner, that allows us to resist God's love, resist His grace, and reject God's commands. This is easy to remember because love spelled backwards is evil. I'm not the best speller. But wait, the question is raised. If we have this free will in heaven, doesn't that mean we will sin in heaven? My response, no, not necessarily. You see, logically speaking, you can sin in heaven, but you never will sin in heaven. And an omniscient God with middle knowledge knows how humans would and will freely choose. How did I reach that conclusion? Well, Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 4:17 that these light momentary afflictions prepare us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. You see, Paul is telling us that all of this bad stuff prepares us for eternity. Paul answered this million-dollar question a couple thousand years ago. But the question is raised, how does affliction and all of this bad stuff that we experience prepare us for eternity? The answer? Because we learn over time from our experiences. We learn and gain experiential knowledge of just how stupid it is to not obey God's commands. We learn how stupid it is to not follow the commands of Jesus all the time. We learn how stupid it is to not always love God and all people all the time. We learn to always trust God, and that not trusting God is the epitome of stupidity. We learn from affliction and all of this bad stuff so that one day, after you wake up to a perfect state of affairs in the presence of an unhidden God and all evil and suffering has come to an end, you will not take this perfect state of affairs for granted, unlike Adam, Eve, Satan, and a third of all the angels seem to do. They took perfection in the presence of an unhidden God for granted, and they wrecked it. After experiencing this world with all of the pain, evil, and suffering, will you take a perfect state of affairs in the presence of an unhidden God for granted? I, for one, will not. You see, this is how God can guarantee the perseverance of the saints for eternity without ever violating the libertarian freedom of humanity and true love. So, to answer the million-dollar question, why does God allow all kinds of bad stuff? Well, because of love. Indeed, that answer might seem counterintuitive at first, but after examining all the data, it's a logical response. In summary, God created humanity for the purpose of love, and the best kind of love requires libertarian freedom. Maximal love is eternal and never fails. But the same ability that allows humanity to experience love is also the same ability that allows humanity to resist God's love. This resistance results in all kinds of pain and suffering. God allows us to experience all kinds of affliction so that we can learn not to take a future perfect state of affairs in the very presence of an unhidden God for granted. So, as crazy as it sounds, the pain and suffering resulting from moral and natural evils or anything else that you don't like about this current world are actually gifts that Adam, Eve, and Satan did not possess. Bottom line, don't forget the words of Jesus. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. John 16:33. And also the words of Paul. God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. If God works all things together for good for those who love him, I've got one last question for you. Do you love God?